The Society of Actuaries Research Institute recently released a report sharing insights and some different highlights from InsurTech Connect 2021, which was held in Las Vegas this recent October. It was really terrific to see this wide and growing set of insurance industry technology and all the innovations that are happening across the different lines of business, and really the growing places where the actuarial profession is involved. This summary report covers the top emerging technologies that may significantly impact the actuarial profession and its involvement in InsurTech over the coming years. So Desiree, it's great to see you again, and maybe you can help me highlight all the things that were going on at InsurTech Connect 2021. What were some of the top trends that you saw showcased at the event?
So I think we had a couple trends that you emphasized very well over the report, and I can only invite a lot of other folks to have a look at it and check it out, because I think the most interesting to me that popped up immediately was the embedded insurance aspect to it. So we had a lot of talks around this, and I think for us as Plug and Play, it was not a very new concept, as we've heard quite a lot of talks around it when we looked at the P&C insurance space. And we saw that evolving over the last few years with a lot of insurance partners looking into the ecosystems and finding their ways on new ways on how to sell insurance products to the clients. However, when I did speak with a lot of your colleagues, Dale, and you yourself, I found out that this seemed to be like a rather new topic for all of you, and that you saw like the potential in it, but also you were like, where does that fit in? Where does that make sense for life and health actuaries? Where does that make sense for our product offerings? So that was one key takeaway where I was really intrigued by it, like that that this captured so much interest. I think the other part is really like there were like a few other things that we're missing out on. So we didn't see too much on the long-term product side. I think for especially when I talked to a few other colleagues of yours, we didn't really find that the overall focus was too much on long-term care. So I think we try to like really stress more focus for this as Plug and Play, and host more events around this to just like increase also the awareness that there is more potential in these areas. I think the overall topic also brought up a totally different question on the data usage. So we saw a lot of startups reaching out to like also your colleagues and a few other ones that say we know that data better than you do. And I think that was a nice challenging way to find business opportunities for the startups. However, it also brought up the question, where does startups even fit in? And I think we like together in the partnership, we elaborated quite different approaches to find mutual ways to benefit from one another, to learn from one another. Like the office hours is just one approach to it. I know we keep hosting a lot of events. Yes, so these are like high levels.
You know, the data driven stuff that you mentioned is really important. We certainly have a lot of research reports and even a certificate on the ethical and responsible use of data that's coming out. It did seem as well that in previous years where people just knew they needed to be around this InsurTech conference as new things were happening, there was a much more focused vision on why people were attending. And maybe the one thing I'd get your feedback too is kind of the uptick in the number of venture capital firms that were there. Did that strike you as well at ITC 2021?
Yeah, we talked to quite a few colleagues, and I think the interesting part was really that InsurTech seems to be a thing now for also VCs that haven't like classically been involved in the VC world. And I specifically had one good chat with one of my colleagues around that, who's not necessarily solely focused on InsurTech as well. And he said, Desiree, they start at a totally different level. They start, where do I even begin to understand insurance as a whole? Like, where do I need to start as a VC? So the conversations around these venture capitalists have been on a more traditional scale on like, what do we invest in the first place? And it goes back to, in the end, you invest in resources and people, in the team that is set up in the early beginnings, but you don't challenge it probably enough in a due diligence aspect as you as actuaries would challenge the data aspect right away. You brought up the ethics aspect. I think that's another good angle to look at. I think we saw a lot of like innovation in the P&C field, but the life and health has so much more potential to offer. And I think if we talk about the data and data ethics, it really brings back the question, is the embedded insurance like the next big thing? Or is it going to be a rather different conversation on who's owning the data.
Let me ask you this. I mean, were there any particular technologies or solutions providers related to data in the actual profession that kind of stood out to you? Maybe different parts of the insurance value chain that were most prominent?
Yeah, I think we overall we always see like innovation happening at the same, like, let's say, spots. For me personally, I was kind of confirmed or validated to see that it's always the customer experience that we see startups address most of the times. Digital distribution is one big thing. And I think we saw a lot of uptick in life insurance purchases during the pandemic. So also the younger generations that now start to understand, maybe I should look into this, but where do I even start? So digital becomes more interesting for them because they basically their first approach to find out more about life insurance is to go and do a Google search. Then that's basically on the front end. We see a lot in that. I saw a lot of people interested in startup solutions like Walnut, who really offer a digital first experience. You download an app, you easily have access to a life insurance plan, and then you kind of build your insurance products around it. It's about creating and educating these younger folks, especially also for the insurance offerings.
And maybe let's put our look into a crystal ball here and kind of take a look at what we think might be happening at ITC 2022 or 23. What did you feel might be missing, or what did you feel might be just on the cusp of getting bigger when it comes to InsurTech and the insurance industry?
Mm-hmm. I think we had a lot of different talks around who's owning the conference these days. And from what it's been my first experience at ITC personally, but I think the most intriguing to me personally was that back in the days, it was the corporates owning the conference. So they were sponsoring the events, they were hosting the events, they were kind of really owning that whole spectacle. But this time around, it was also the startups. It was just the startups arranging the sessions. It was the startup sponsoring the sessions. So you can really see where the money basically flows towards. Like all of a sudden, you see that. Me personally, I'd be curious to see whether this is gonna remain as such, whether we really see the startups owning the conference moving forward. If we do see like now more and more venture capitalists entering the space, if they're gonna invest in health or in life solutions, I think it's one area that is still quite untapped. And if you talk to a few VCs, they're very focused on like understanding the P&C solutions. But when it comes to life and health, it's more broadly defined as like, okay, let's just look into health. And I think that this is just going to be interesting how they will leverage people like the actuaries to like do their due diligence. And then whether we see like more life and health startups also owning the conference in case that VC money from the new VCs, especially entering the space and trying to find the next big potential, if they're going to be owning the conference.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it was a great platform to kind of see all these small startup companies talking to larger insurance businesses about the way their ideas could transform the way insurance is sold and underwritten and claims are adjudicated. And I think a lot of that has some application for sure into life and health space. I think it also centered on the fact that the actual profession is kind of this core or this bridge between the technology side and making insurance operations decisions. We play well in both spaces, and you heard a lot of actuaries being used in these companies as that conduit that can bring both the technology knowledge and the insurance knowledge together and form something great. Well, Desiree, I mean, thanks very much for connecting again with us here today and for stopping by to discuss all that went on at InsurTech Connect 2021.
Thank you, Dale.
And I would say if you have any questions or feedback or just want to learn more about the InsurTech space or what goes on at conferences like this, please feel free to send us an email. We'll point you to the report that summarized all that's happening there. But we can also get in contact. Shoot an email to research@soa.org. Would love to hear your thoughts or feedback for the future. The InsurTech Connect 2021 report, which outlines these great opportunities that are growing and where the actual profession is playing an important space, can be found on the SOA website. It's on SOA.org. If you click then on the Research Institute and then look at our innovation and technology research. Thanks for joining us today to learn a little bit more about the research projects coming to you from the Society of Actuaries Research Institute.